The first thing that I want to say to you is that you will not be sorry that you registered and went through boot camp with Paul. Paul is astounding. He is fantastic at what he does. He inspires, he motivates, but he is also so dialed in to all of the practical concerns that you're going to need in order to become a coach. I had such a wonderful experience in boot camp. He gives us everything that we need. The whole process is so well structured. There is so much support. Paul gives out an incredible amount, and he really knows his stuff. So if you have even just the slightest inclination that this might be for you, don't wait another second. This is not a paid ad. I swear I'm a real person, not an actor, but you won't be sorry. It is a wonderful experience and you won't regret it.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Way to start a little bit late because, well, you know what I did? I was driving around earlier and enjoying my day. Thought, hey, we've got everything together for tonight and everything else. And you know what? I forgot something really important. I forgot my laptop inside of my wife's car, and she had gone the other direction. And then it dawned on me. So, you know what we ended up having to do? Starting a little bit late and all of this hustle. So fortunately, I don't look too sweaty or too crazy or anything, but let's get this going since we're starting a little bit late. Let me say hello to everyone who's saying hello to me. There is Farah. Do me a huge favor, everybody who's on. Like this post, share it. If you've ever joined us on a Mentor Monday, you know I do not give you fluff. I give you stuff that can help you develop as a coach on the skill side, and I also give you stuff that can help you build your coaching practice and a thriving coaching practice at that. And so we're going to be trying to do that. Again, Daniel says it's all divine timing, I suppose, or I'm just a doofus. Probably more likely that I'm a doofus. But anyway, we just have it. The reality is this is the way life is. Sometimes it's messy, and sometimes you just got to figure out stuff. And sometimes you're going to show up 15 minutes late, and a lot of people are counting on you, and sometimes things just happen. Do me a huge favor. Like this post, share it, and let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from and what you're excited about and you feel life and momentum on. I'm really excited because we've got coaches who are launching coaching products, who are starting their coaching practices. There's a lot that's going on, and we have a boot camp that's coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend, and I'll speak more about that in just a little bit. But let's jump into what we're talking about today. What are we talking about tonight? Well, we're starting a new series, and the new series is called The Vision-Led Coach. And tonight we're talking about the exponential power of vision. Let me say hello to a couple more people. Brian says, glad you made it. Glad you made it, Brian. Diane, who's joining us from South Carolina. There is Jennifer joining us from Maryland. Just making sure that I say hello to everybody who's saying hello to me. And if you would, jump in there. Let us know that you are here. Like this post and share it. I promise you it's going to be worth your time. This is a new series. We're going to be in this series for about 4 weeks, and it's all about vision. And really what I want to do is I want to set your life on fire in a good way, and I want to set your coaching career on fire, and again, in an encouraging way. A couple more people. Amanda, who's saying hello to us from, it says Cameron Tate. Is that a place, or is it Amanda? I'm not really sure. Sandy's joining us from New Jersey. I can use a new lens, waiting on impending snowstorm. Woo! Oh, no. We finally got rid of rain. Here's the craziest thing. We had rain. We never have rain. And we literally, it's a strange thing. Ever since I moved to California, I've off and on had dreams of tornadoes in California. I was a Southern boy, so we had those there. And what do you know is that there's tornadoes all over the place this past week, including like all of a sudden this crazy wind starts hitting and everything else. And I was like, that was crazy. And so this tornado touched down like on the street over from us. And we're all blessed that nothing was really destroyed except trees, and no one was hurt and their property wasn't damaged. So that was pretty amazing. So let's do this. Let's jump in. Again, what are we talking about? The vision-led coach. Why is it really important to be vision-led? Because, well, honestly, I find a lot of people accidentally do some of the things that they are doing in life. You ever had a conversation with someone, and I can think about conversations that I've had with individuals, and I'll usually start that conversation with, well, tell me your story. And people were like, well, what story? And I was like, well, your story. Well, where do you want me to start? I was like, hey, you can start anywhere that you want, but I want to hear your story. And so a lot of times people will tell their story, and if they tell it in the context of career or whatever, especially if I ask people, they'll tell me what they do for a living or whatever, and I'll say, tell me your story. How did you come into that career? And it's crazy because it's all of this different path and it's all of these different things. And you know what'll end up happening is that I'll find people who end up scratching their head and they're like, this is so weird. Like, I have no idea how I ended up here. I ended up here through obviously a bunch of different decisions and side doors and windows and cracks and different kinds of things. But I find this is true for a lot of people, that they're not really sure how they ended up in the place that they ended up. Now, I don't think that that's a problem if your life is amazing, because sometimes your life's just completely amazing and you almost can't take credit for it because you're like, dude, I made some bad decisions in life. I'm so glad that I didn't get what I was choosing back then. Sometimes there's grace on your life. Sometimes there's absolutely mercy on your life that you made some very bad decisions and it turned out amazing. But here's the thing. If I find people who look at their life and there's a little bit of unrest in them, if there is a little bit of dissatisfaction, if there's something in you that you're kind of like, this is what I want my life to look like. Because a lot of people will say, well, I never pictured my life would look like this. You know what that tells me? It tells me that when they were younger, maybe they were kids, maybe they were a 20-something, and they had a picture of what they thought their life was going to look like. Now, sometimes that can be a good thing because people had, maybe they had a bad upbringing, or they didn't have an ideal picture. You look back and you're like, well, that was really childish or whatever. But a lot of times people have massive dreams. They have massive pictures, and we would say a vision for their life. And a lot of times they're saying, well, my life is not what I pictured it would be like at all. And if your life is still in that place where you'd say, my life does not look like how I always envisioned it to be, pictured it to be, and you feel like there's more that you were supposed to live into, or you're currently, you know what that means? It means that there is more over there. And we need to be able to align our lives so that we can begin to live into that picture of what that life looks like. Let me just say hello to a couple of people. If you are saying hello to me, do that really quick. Jump in the chat. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about. Also, do me a huge favor. If you haven't already, like this post and share it. That tells people that we are doing a good job, and specifically tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. So, having said all of that, let's talk about what vision actually is. So, what is vision? Well, here's what vision is. Vision is the preferred future that is in contrast to the way your life is or the way the world is right now. Because here's what I would say. Is that the vision of your life, obviously what that means is that there's a preferred way that you would want to be living your life. And right now, there is a gap between that. There's a contrast between the life that you're living right now and what you would say is a preferred life, a better version of life, an upgraded version of life, or that I would say for most of you who are watching me tonight, you're called to coaching. And since you're called to coaching, since that's in your heart, then we can go as far as to say that your coaching career is supposed to actually alter and change the world, because it's changing and altering people's lives. And when people's lives transform, the world transforms as a result of that. So you have a vision of the way that you believe that the world should look as a result of whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. Now, let me add to that, that definition is that a vision is a clear mental picture of what could be. But it's not just that. It is fueled by the conviction that it must be. So you have a picture of what could be, but there is a conviction in your heart that's saying it must be and it must happen. I'm going to share a quote with you really quick. And it's this quote by Andy Stanley that says, everybody ends up somewhere. A few people end up there on purpose. Most people that you know are where they are in life, not because they were trying to get there on purpose, but because decisions were made for them, or they made decisions, or things kind of came at them. You know, after 2020, there was a lot of people who lost their jobs, some people who got downsized and their job never came back. And I remember meeting one of these individuals, and it was, they'd been working in tech and everything else. And they'd been working in tech, and they were working with a private university. And when they got downsized, they called me and they're like, Paul, I don't really know what to do about this. And so we started processing it. And so, you know what I wanted to find out? I wanted to find out how they got there. What were the decisions that brought them to this place? Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to take account of their life, and I wanted them to do an accounting of their life so they could understand what matters to them and what got them to the decision, so we could figure out what's most important and where should they be going. So I'm asking these questions, and then basically what they told me, and I was working for this university, and then they had like a student job. So I started working in this student job in tech there. And then another better student job opened up, and then a help desk job opened up, and then this next thing opened up, and then I got my degree, and then they offered me this. And so basically what this person had done is that they'd never really had to think about making decisions, because where they were at, it just seemed like, well, you know, I just did whatever made sense, and I just walked through whatever door was open to me. So that now, post 2020, when there was not a job there was a major loss, because really what had happened up to then is that, well, they had ended up somewhere, but they didn't end up where they were on purpose. And this was the first time in their life that they were having to really think about meaning and purpose in their life. And listen, this is after an investment in a university where they had been there something like 20 years. And this was the first time they were asking that question. And for each one of you, I want you to know that when you were younger, and I'm sure it's still there, but when you were younger, there was a picture that you had that was a preferred existence. It was the picture of the future. It's what you envisioned. And listen, if your picture of your life right now does not look like what you had always pictured or what you are picturing currently, then there's something that you can do about it. You can absolutely get a vision for things now, and you can do something about it. But let me say this, is that you don't change your life by having simply a picture of the future. There's something different between the people who actually actualize. So the few people who end up there on purpose, there's something different about the people who end up there on purpose from the vast majority of people who just end up somewhere. And what is that? Well, here's another great quote by a great man. Martin Luther King Jr. said this. He says, I have a dream that one day, this is out of the Dream speech, one of the most famous speeches probably of all time and in humanity, was Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. And what he did that day is he talks about a dream, but he used the word dream, but honestly, it was more than a dream. He shared a vision. And it was a vision that was actually very real for him. I think that when he wrote the speech, that he had moments where he closed his eyes and he said, this is where we are right now. And it's not okay where we are. It is not okay that we have the law of the land or the branding of this company, of this country, or in the historical documents of this country that says that everyone is equal, but that's not actually how we live. What if we actually lived into the ideal that was etched in the very beginnings of this country? But no one had ever seen it before. And so I really believe that Martin Luther King Jr. closed his eyes and he would go to moments and he could picture what it would truly look like if everyone was treated equally. And so he started to paint this picture because I believe that people who live a life of purpose, on purpose, kind of purpose, on purpose with their vision, people who are truly visionary are able to close their eyes and they're able to see and experience life in that preferred existence. And you know what they do? They bring that reality into our reality. That's what's different between those people. Now, I think that people could actually learn from visionaries to start bringing that reality into our lives as well, to actually follow what they do and what makes them so radically different. Martin Luther King Jr. was a radically different person because not only did he see something, I would dare to say that in many of his speeches, his probably most famous speech being the dream speech, that he said things that he wanted to see and that he had a vision for that probably most of those people who are in the room did not believe at first because they had not seen it. Here's what I believe. I believe that some 50 years later, that we go from segregation to an African American man in the White House. I believe this led to that. A vision of many of the images that he gave. I have a dream that one day black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I don't care what anybody thinks about politics or any of that other kind of nonsense and everything else. I believe that he saw it, and even though he didn't see it in his lifetime, we lived it because he desired to see it. I'm not saying that we have everything figured out in the world. We definitely are imperfect and all of those other kinds of things, but you have to admit, how do we go from segregation to an African American in the White House in less than one generation? And it's because of visionaries, but not just visionaries, not just dreamers, because he wasn't simply a dreamer. What was the difference? Well, here's the difference. Is it because people with vision aren't just simply dreamers, they are able to see something that other people can't see. He is a person who's able to see something that maybe not everybody else sees it. It doesn't matter that everybody else can't see it because he saw it a generation before anybody else could see it. But he didn't just dream it. There was something that took place. Here's the thing that took place is that I was saying a while ago that you can't just dream it, that there is a conviction that comes with it. They are convicted inside their personal beliefs, and it usually has moral implications. And so for him, it wasn't just simply, oh, I've got a vision board and I want this car and I want this house or whatever. No, I believe that there was moral implications. We could all agree there's moral implications that there's something that rises up in the visionaries that say this is not okay and something has to be done about it. It's that there's a conviction that takes place in your heart, and it drives you to action, and it drives you to do things. And in Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, it drove him to endure suffering and difficulty and everything else because he knew what he had seen, and for him, it was worth it to endure what he needed to endure to see it through. Here's the third thing, is that people with vision aren't just dreamers. They have convinced themselves about what they see. and they have convinced themselves, they are fully persuaded that this has to happen. Last thing is this, is that they are committed to giving their lives to it. I would dare say that most of us in our life, in our lives, most of the people who are going to be hearing my voice probably do not have as big of a dream, as much of an ambition, as much of a conviction, as much of a moral implication as Martin Luther King Jr. had. To suffer, to literally be jailed, to go through all of the things, threats, all of those other kinds of things. And what's the greatest threat? Like literally, I hope his life takes our excuses away, because he did that under threat. What's the worst thing that could happen to us for the dreams and ambitions in our life? Like, he's paved the way for so many people and taken excuses away from people like me to say, what's the worst thing that could happen? Somebody says no to your coaching practice. Oh, somebody doesn't like your Instagram post and they don't respond to it. It takes you a month or two longer or 3 months longer to get your coaching practice up. Some people don't believe in what you're going for. I mean, really, seriously, it's a life that should convict us that we need to have a vision that's bigger than what we're living right now, and quit accidentally having these happy little accidents that show up in our life. But if we could take hold of what our purpose is and actually lean in and live into it. So how do we begin to do that? Well, vision itself has exponential power. And here's what it does for us. First of all, it gives significance to our present. How does it give significance to our present? Because when you have vision, everything that you do in your life suddenly has purpose. I hear parents every now and then complain because, well, their kids get to a certain age and they're not old enough to drive, but they've got a life going on. And I'll hear parents complain, all I am is an Uber for my kids. All they need me for is to drive them here, drive them to practice over here, drive them to school over here, drive them over to their friend's house over here. I'll be so glad when they get old enough and they can, and it's like what? This is a life that is insignificant if you can't see that what you're doing right now has any partnership with the purpose of the child who is in your life. People who complain about, all I do is take care of kids, clean house, and change diapers. That's a person without purpose. That is a miserable life if that's the way that you look at it. As a dad, I believe that compared to most dads out there, I've changed more diapers than most dads that I know. Doesn't rival a mom, I know that, but I never had a problem with it. Not that I liked it. Bear in mind, I didn't like it, but I never had a problem with it. Because what I understood is that the pain had a purpose. The poop diapers serve a purpose. Because this person who's in front of me is not fully manifested, and they're not even close to what they will be. But in this moment, the best thing that I could do is to show up for them in a life and surround them with love and to surround them with security, so that one day they will never, ever doubt who they are or have the confidence to go after. See, at a very young age, that's what I understood. Even when my kids were in my wife's belly and I would talk to them and I'd say, you're going to change the world. You're loved. You're beautiful. All of these things that I've always tried to surround my kids. Not that I've done it all perfectly, but understanding that everything that we do is to a greater purpose. And you know what ends up happening is that life can't help but to be significant when you understand that the things that you are doing and partnering with have a greater purpose. And you know what happens is that it allows the pain, it gives the pain a purpose. It makes it significant, because the reason why people feel so insignificant in their life is they really don't know how, in the choices that they make every day, that it's leading to something greater. Now, I can look at my children now, and I can say that, like many of you, it was all worth it. But when you're in the middle of it, and when you're in the middle of the crap and it's thick and it's up to your knees, you got to be reminded of what you're here for and what the vision is for. Some of you who are going to be called into great things are going to have to deal with adversity. You're going to have to confront your self-doubt. You're going to have to do things that you don't like doing sometimes. And you know what's going to actually make your life more significant and keep you in the game is that you have a vision of what that future is going to look like, and it makes you rise up and show up in a different way every day. Here's the next thing. Vision has exponential power because it creates motivation. How does it produce motivation? It produces motivation because suddenly you are taking control. Suddenly you are motivated because what you know you are doing matters. You're not allowing life to make choices for you and then you just show up somewhere. You have determined what due north is going to be, and you are going to take the steps towards those things in terms of due north. Let me give you an old Bible quote that many of you probably are very familiar with. And the Old English version of this says this: where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. Well, what does that even mean? Well, here's what it means. I'll show you on a nice little whiteboard here. I'll help you understand what it means. Let's imagine this is you in life on this little boat here. And what happens presumably when you're on the boat? Well, when you're on the boat, well, presumably, what do we have going on here? Well, we've got water, right? And we got something else happening at times as well, is that we've got wind. We got wind blowing in at the boat and everything else. Well, what happens is that when the wind hits these sails, you know what ends up happening is that you start to drift and you're at the mercy of the wind. This is what I think most people are doing in their life, because they have not chartered due north. They have not decided on where they wanted to go. Now the wind seems to move them back and forth, and they're moved by everything that happens in life because they have not determined where they want to go. Now every wind and everything that kicks up, that brings in self-doubt and everything else, people are in and they're out. They're a roller coaster in their emotions, all kinds of things like that. Here's what vision does for you. Vision acts as a restraint. It literally anchors you. So when the wind blows, you know what happens on a good anchor? You might go this way, you might go that way, you might go back and forth a little bit. But you know what? You know where you're headed. You know what you're called to. You know what's significant. You know what matters. And you can let the wind come, and it might blow you a little bit, but it doesn't blow you off course because you know where you're headed. Difficulty, disappointment, frustration, surprises in life that you didn't think were going to happen might have a temporary blowback, but it's not going to take you away from what you really believe the purpose is, because you are restrained, you are convicted, you are locked in. Now, having said that, what we really have to have is a picture of what that life is supposed to look like. And this is what I would say is going to be all of your homework, even tonight. We do use this old tool and as coaches called the wheel of life. And really what I always say, I'll usually start with kind of a question, is that what areas of your life are most important? But sometimes people will label it. And so you might have, my spouse, my children, you might say job, you might say money, you might say health, you might say your purpose, you might say spirituality. I don't know, all of these different things. Well, how we get a vision for life is really quite simple. Is that when you know what that vision for you and your spouse, what the vision for your children is supposed to look like, the vision for your spirituality, because I understand that we are multidimensional kinds of people. The vision for your career, the vision for your coaching practice, when you know what that is and you are convicted by that, when you can see it, when you can experience it and everything else, then it's really easy to look in your life and to be able to say, well, here's where I am in relation to what I believe is that ideal of 10 or whatever. But see, I don't think that most of us have thought so much about it, because, if you know what that picture looks like, then today's pain and difficulty has a purpose. It means that when I have known and I have set that as due north and I have locked in conviction and I have committed myself and it has become a moral imperative in my life, now it's the vision is what it is. I have determined due north, and this is where I'm going to head. So I can incur blowbacks and and I can stay connected to the vision. I can stay motivated to what I need to do today. I can stay committed to those things, and I can stay encouraged, because even if it was a difficult day, I know where I am in relation to the vision, because the vision's always waking me up at night. It's like a child at night that, what it does is, like when a mother is pregnant, you're initially excited and you're like, oh, a pregnancy test. I remember when my wife gave me the pregnancy test for my birthday for Shiloh, our youngest. And she goes, here, open this bag. And I open it up, and I was never so happy to have something that had been peed on and given to me. And I'm like, oh, I knew it. I knew you were going to have a baby or whatever, and so we're excited. You're initially excited. And you know what happens as the days and months progress is that, well, the body changes happen. And then, now you got hot flashes. And now you can't get cool enough. Now you can't get hot enough. Now things don't fit. Now there's things happening inside your body. There's cravings. There's tears. Why am I crying? Why am I laughing? Why am I crying and I'm laughing? And then you have to get weird pillows and you have to sleep in different things. And there's all of this stuff. Now I don't even want to go out of the house. So I understood all of those things as being the husband, vicariously walking alongside my wife and understanding all these things. But you know what you do the entire time? You don't say, oh, our life's falling apart because you're sweating and you don't want to be and your clothes don't fit anymore. You know what you do is that you open up a baby book and you're like, how far along are we right now? And I look at the picture and you're like, the baby's the size of a grape. The baby's the size of an orange. The baby this, the baby that. You know what you do? You name the baby. You start buying cribs. You start decorating the room. You do all of those things because we understand that these are normal occurrences and processes that lead you to having a baby. And the baby is the vision, and the picture allows you to partner, stay motivated, stay encouraged, do everything that you need to do because you're having a baby. And this is what vision does to us. See, vision has exponential power because what it'll ultimately do is it will empower you to say no to the things that you are not supposed to be doing. It's going to give you focus and direction, and there's going to be no more drifting because now you are anchored. And it's also going to make you stop taking your life so lightly. Vision's going to cause you to be more productive. And here's the thing that I see from people who are truly visionary is that people who are visionary get more things done, and people who are visionary also get bigger things done than the people who do not have vision. What I'm hoping at the end of this thing is that not only are you re-engaged with your purpose, not only are you excited, not only do you find momentum and all of those other kinds of things, I hope that the people in the next few weeks who are listening to me and going through this process, I hope at the end you get bigger things done and you accomplish more and you set a bigger calling and purpose for your life than what you're living into right now. For some of you, what that's going to do is, well, you got to start. You're listening to me, you probably have been thinking about getting trained and certified as a coach for many years. You've been Googling it and everything else. Listen, if you've Googled getting coach, becoming a coach more than 2 times, you're in a place of procrastination and you need to do something about it. Now, Life Coach Training Institute, we are not just a training school. I know we got training in the name. We're not just that. That's where most schools start and end. They don't have an ambition past that. If you go on most coach training websites, it's a lot of convoluted processes and a lot of stuff. And for most of you, you know, when you went to school, it didn't prepare you for the real world. It did not help you get started. It did not actually put money in your pocket. And some of you are probably wondering, like, why did I get this degree and I never used it? Why did I go through this certificate program and never use it? We're going to make sure that you don't do that. Here's what I understand. When I finished coach training school, I had no idea how to get a client. We're trying to deal with that total issue because I don't want you buried under debt. It's why we've chosen to be a school that is affordable, because I'm not going to shortchange you on your education and your training, but I'm also not going to give you a certificate that makes you think that, oh, I got the certificate now and now the door's being beaten down and all these people. No, there's a process and there's steps, right? There's a vision you've got to have for that, and you got to be consistent in it. So our Jumpstart program is the best thing that I can say is the most affordable option that we have been helping thousands of coaches over the years not only get trained and certified, but start their coaching practices. And it's only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Not a big deal when most certification programs are between $4,000 to $12,000. Now, for those of you who have not gotten trained and certified, there's a couple of different options. One is going to be this boot camp option that is not this weekend, but it's the following weekend. It's a weekend of February 23rd through the 25th. If you join Jumpstart for $97 a month, you're already registered in this. What are we going to be covering over that weekend? Well, what we're going to be covering that weekend is 7 powerful sessions. It's the exact same content that we give you in the Life Coach Certification course, but we do it over the course of a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, how to establish a growing coaching practice. There are live coaching demos as a part of the weekend so that you can observe, you can coach, you can be coached, and there's live Q&As at the end of every one of those sessions. I make sure that there's a lot of bonus content and we answer every one of the questions that you'll have over the course of the weekend. What's all included? Well, you get the 7 sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You get coaching tools, question samples, coaching agreement, and intake samples. We add to that a welcome pack that is completely brandable. We also give you a coaching tools starter kit, 5 powerful tools that can help people get transformation quick. You also earn your life coach certification. Yes, you get a certificate. You also get replays and handouts. You will also get invited to Tuesday night live training, and you get free audits for life. The cost for a boot camp is only $247. Now, one of 2 different things that you can do. If you don't think that you need any business development help, this is the way to go. We also have a $47 a month payment plan. If you want to do that, you can click the link inside the description of this video and enroll in whatever you want. Best deal, though, because I believe that you should get the business development help, is our Jumpstart program, because you get trained and certified, and we also give you a business development roadmap. We give you the A to Z, start from nothing, brainstorming, all the way to launching coaching products. We have 6 total courses. The coaching product blueprint, we have a branding course. We walk you through all of the steps so that you don't have to figure out how to do it on your own. And we have an amazing group of brilliant people who support one another. And so you'll have access to all of those people. You'll be turning in assignments alongside those people. You'll also have those people that you get to engage with on Tuesday night training, but you have the Jumpstart people who they're going to be some of your best friends for your entire life. And they're in the trenches with you and will keep you encouraged and hold you accountable as you're taking steps forward. Again, this is the best deal in the entire industry. I know, because I was one of those coaches who spent thousands of dollars years ago, before it got as expensive as now, and didn't know how to get a client. And what we will allow you to do is not only get the skills and the competency that you need to be a great coach, but we're going to show you how to acquire clients. And that's the best gift that I believe that we can give you. And again, it's not going to put you in debt for the rest of your life. Anybody have any questions and would like to say hello? I'd love to say hello to you. There's Lee, who's joining us from Florida. Good to see you. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Thanks for joining me tonight. A new cohort of the Life Coach Certification course starts tomorrow. So it's a great time to get enrolled. We'll be in session 1 of the Life Coach Certification course on Tuesdays. Best deal, enroll and jumpstart because you get access to everything. Self-paced course, the Tuesday night training, as well as boot camp. That's the best way to go, as well as being enrolled in all of the other courses. If you're just wanting to get trained and certified, hey, join us for boot camp. That's an amazing way to get started. Knock out all your training in one weekend and get that certification over with. And let's get busy. We're just trying to give you the vehicle to help you accomplish what you're here on the planet to do. And we're honored to be able to walk alongside you. Listen, we're not just some internet school where you just print a certificate. We're very high touch. We're very engaged, and we know what we're doing. We've been really successful as coaches and building businesses, but we've also been very successful walking alongside coaches who maybe don't know where to start and have a lot of self-doubt. And we help you eliminate that self-doubt and, more importantly, get started. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Before we jump in, let's say hello to the people who are joining me, and should have put that up here. See this right here? This is what we always love to do. We love to connect with you. So do me a huge favor. Like this post and share it. That tells YouTube and Facebook that we're doing a good job. Secondly, jump inside of the chat and let us know where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on. We're in week 2 of our series called Vision Led Coach. And I hope you enjoyed last week. I'm going to tell you, I'm all about this week, firing you up, bringing a little bit of irritation, because irritation is going to bring out something amazing out of you. So make sure that you say hello to us. Jump inside of the chat really quick. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, maybe in your on your journey as a coach. Let me say hello to a few people. Diane joining us from South Carolina, excited about learning from Mentor Monday. Thank you. Brandy is joining us from Alabama. Good to see you, Brandy. Again, if you guys would, jump inside of the chat and let us know that you are here. Also, do us a huge favor, like this post and share it. What you'll find tonight, if you've never joined me on a Mentor Monday, is that I never do fluff. It's so important to me to actually make this worth your time. And I know some of you have the day off, so maybe you're wrapping up your day off. I mean, it's 5:15 over here in California, but where you are might be past dinner. You might be just wrapping up, about to curl in bed or curl up in bed or whatever. So I appreciate the fact that you're spending your time with me, your precious time with me. And I promise you that I'm not going to waste your time when it comes to that. Stacy is joining us from, see that again? Oh, there it goes. From Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. That sounds beautiful. Kimberly is joining us from Chicago. Again, if you would, say hello to us. Tell us where you are joining us from and what you're excited about. And if you have any questions or comments, keep the comments in the chat going. Also want to remind you that this weekend is boot camp weekend. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, you can start with us on Friday, knock all of your training out in a 3-day weekend. So we'll do Friday night, 1 session. We'll do 3 sessions on Saturday, 3 sessions on Sunday, and you're done. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but the link is actually inside the description of this video. Again, keep these comments rolling. Keep saying hello to me, and I guarantee you, I promise you that I will respond. Well, like I said, we are in the second week of Vision-Led Coach. And what are we talking about tonight? Well, like I said a little while ago, I am going to provide some healthy irritation for you tonight with this question. Are you tolerating or are you taking action? And you know what? Honestly, you might be doing both. You might be taking action, but you're probably going to find that there are some areas in which you are tolerating. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to provide some healthy irritation. I want to stir you up. I want to stir you up to a better life. I want to stir you up towards the greatness that's in you. And so with that being said, we need to jump in. Let me say hello over here to friends joining us from Virginia. Thanks for joining us from all the way in Virginia. Well, we are going to jump in. So here's where I'd love to start. I'd love to start right here with this beautiful quote that's from Confucius. And Confucius says this: we have two lives, and the second one begins when we realize we have only one life. I don't know if I can inspire you any better than that. I'm going to try. Because, and as I like to do, if I use anything that anybody has created, there's this website called AES. I can't remember what it stands for, but rather than having our team recreate this, we're just using what they have. Maybe you've seen this. Some people make them and they sell them like on Etsy. Every now and then you'll see it on Instagram or something like this. And this is what's called a 90-year human life in weeks. Now, reality is I know a lot of people aren't living to 90 years. In fact, there's somebody who was close to us that lost their life in the past week that was only in their mid-30s, leaving a few children behind, which is tragic and it's heartbreaking. What's more tragic and heartbreaking to me is when we are aware of our life and we're probably living below the threshold of what we're supposed to be living. Because reality is that no one really knows how long we're going to be living on the planet. I think probably a lot of us expect to be around for a really long time. But when your head hits the pillow, even tonight, if tonight was the last thing, is there anything undone? Is there any potential that was unused in your life? Are there any regrets? Did you withhold in your life? Did you fully live into the life that you were made to live? And you know, if you can say, yes, everything was amazing, I lived and I did everything that I was supposed to do, then I think that was a life well lived, regardless of how many years you live on the planet. But if it's not, then let me give you this for consideration. This is a human life in weeks. And it's interesting because when I see some of these things, I can see really where my children are right now at various stages. And so when I look at this, this is what it looks like if you are a small child, and you're probably not thinking about that, and probably no small children watching me tonight. But when you're a small child, you're somewhere down here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so it's not taking up such a small portion of space. But, in your first 10 years of life, you're just really getting started. So we're really not thinking it's that big of a deal because our first 10 years of life, well, that's only 10% of our life, really, if we're on this 90-year track. But as we all know, life goes by really quickly. And so before you know it, your teenage years, which some of you can remember, some of you remember your teenage years fondly and everything else, you're pretty much done with your teenage years by that point. And for some of us, we went to trade schools or we went to college or we got started with that family and everything else. And you know what ends up happening is that very quickly we find that our 20s are behind us. We start having children somewhere in here and everything else. And then, well, you know what we do? We hit our 30s. 30s, in many cases are a little bit better than our 20s because we have a little bit greater sense of ourselves and everything else. We start thinking about life a little bit more. Our kids are starting to grow up. We give a lot of our time to our kids and everything else. And then, you know what we do? We end up hitting 40s. And just for the sake of where we are right now, I'll show you where I am right now. I'm going to give you the purple in terms of where I am right now. And so this is my 50th year. I'm 49 years old, and this is where I'm at. And when you look at it like that, well, what's the reality? The reality is that half of my life is over with. It is over. And that's if I live on this 90-year plan that we have right here. That's barring nothing else happens. But what is really the average lifespan in the United States? Well, it's probably more like that. So if we're honest about it, if we're honest about where we're at least with the lifespan for the most part, for the most part, we can all pretty much say that my grandfather used to say once he got past 70, I know I'm living on borrowed time, and he made it to about 86. So this is what we got. And many of you are kind of in the same spot that I am. You might be here. You know what? You might be a little bit farther down the road here, but this is what we're really talking about. We don't have a whole lot of those boxes left. And the reality is that there's a lot of things that are still happening in these boxes right here if we don't do something that were happening here. They were happening in our 40s. They were happening here. They were happening here. And they were happening here. Fear, self-doubt, insecurity. I mean, the reality is that there's just not a whole lot of time left. And, what are we doing with our life? What's making our decisions this point forward? At what point do you kind of look at life and you say, man, I've given up a lot of life to self-doubt and insecurity and what other people's opinions are and failure and risk and all of these other kinds of things. See, we all know that we would live life a little bit differently if we knew the exact day, if it was somehow right here, or even if it was right here. That if it was right here, you would live life significantly differently, right? If you're at the same stage that I am and you found out that life ended right here, then I guarantee you right here, what's happening in those, it looks like a completely different life. The way that you show up, the way that you respect life, the way that you treat people, the way that you show up is going to be drastically different. It's interesting when you know that you don't have a whole lot of life left, or if you know that there's scarcity, the way that you treat things that you used to not treat that importantly. Like, how much time did you spend on social media today? I guarantee you that if was your story and you knew exactly where it was going to happen, I bet you probably wouldn't have been on social media today. I bet you wouldn't have binge watched stuff on Netflix this past weekend. No judgment. I'm just saying that you would show up in your life and you would treat your life really differently, and you wouldn't be tolerating the same things that you're tolerating right now. I bet you would get your relationships in order. I bet there's a lot of things that you would try that you never would have tried before. And it's all about how we regard our life and how we show up. I bet you would call that son, you would call that daughter, you would hold that grandkid a little bit differently. I bet you would show up engaged fully rather than distracted. I bet a bunch of different things that are happening in politics and everything else, you would probably push that aside because you're like, you know what? Whatever is happening with this, I only have a couple of weeks left. I only have a few months left. And so I'm not going to waste my time focusing on politics or anything else that does not have something that's going to touch future generations and actually put something in order that's going to have a ripple effect for something great. You'd be thinking about all of those things of how do you want to be remembered, all of those things. If you knew exactly how much time, then you would spend it. See, this is what we get to do in this second portion of our life. And if you haven't grabbed a hold of the second portion of your life, then I want you to realize again, you only get one chance to do this thing. But that's not going to be enough for most of us, because it's a nice little pep talk and it's a nice little speech and it's a nice little reminder tonight. But I don't expect that any of you will do anything different after you close up this video tonight. I really don't. unfortunately, because we've got a great momentum of a life that has been tolerating things, and we don't see ourselves in the significance of the moment. That if you knew, you would grab a hold of every moment for exactly what it was, and you wouldn't settle, and you wouldn't waste your times with miscellaneous other kinds of things that don't really matter. But again, like I said, that's not enough to stir you towards a different life. So let's talk about how we could actually live a different life. Here's the first thing that I'll say, and it's a truth bomb. The life that you have right now is a direct result of the standards that you have in your life. And some of you may not know that. Some of you may actually disagree with that, but I'm going to actually prove it to you. And all of us are coaches, right? Or we're aspiring coaches. So what do? We help people achieve goals, don't we? It's a relationship that's going somewhere. A coaching relationship is a relationship that's going somewhere. And when we're working with someone, we're helping them achieve a goal that maybe they've always wanted, maybe that they haven't been able to achieve. But the reality is that your standards are actually more important than daily goal setting. Because the reality is that at the beginning of this year, a lot of people set goals, didn't they? They called them New Year's resolutions, and they're already over with. There was something that for some reason, it didn't bother them that they didn't finish what they started. And that's not okay. But that's because goals are actually not as important as your standards. Goals actually will not have the same kind of impact on your life that your own personal standards, your expectation in life is much more important than actually even goal setting. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at this, goal setting versus a lifetime of raising your standards really looks like this. Like if this is coaching right here, which is setting a goal, somebody might set a goal to finish college or go to college. It might be, get a promotion, it might be something like have children or something like that. It might even be something like buy a house, and that's not bad stuff. But the reality is that in someone's lifetime, and again, we're talking about lifetime here, if this is someone's calling and purpose, I'll also call this potential. If this is your potential, which I believe if you live in your maximum potential, that means that you are living into the calling and purpose that you were destined for on this planet. This means full potential also means fullest of life satisfaction, fullest in every portion of your life. If that is the ultimate that is possible for all of us as human beings, the way that most human beings are actually living, if this is I just put an 80-year lifespan, this is the way that most people live their life in this goal setting kind of thing. Because somebody over here might say, get a college degree. And here's what happens, and here's what even happens when we coach people, is that there's a little bit of a spike here. And you know what they do? They kind of, what they do? They end up getting their little diploma and their certificate and stuff like that. And that's great. And you know what ends up happening is that there's a downward trend after that. Because, I went out and I went and got my college degree and everything else. And then you know what you do? You kind of go in cruise control for a little while. Until you kind of go along and you're kind of like, there's something else that I want. Maybe this wasn't, I just realized that getting a college degree and getting started, maybe I want a promotion. Maybe I want some kind of a career change or whatever. And so, you know what ends up happening is that they set a goal for like a promotion, or maybe over here, it's to buy a house. Maybe it's getting married. Hopefully we're not getting married when we're 60, just starting out there, but maybe some people are. But the reality is that what happens is that when it comes to setting goals, what will happen is that people momentarily will make decisions and they will take action and they will achieve their goal, but then they'll suddenly fall back to really what is below their potential in most cases. And so what ends up happening is that setting a goal isn't enough to actually change your life. It just allows you to accomplish some things. How many people do you know accomplish amazing goals in their life, but their life isn't one that you would actually want to exchange your life for, because there's some key areas in life that you're like, dude, I would want more in these particular areas in life. But the reality is that for all of us, we could probably look at this and say, yeah, I've had some key things that I've made goals, but I've noticed that there's a certain default that I fall back on. Here's the reason why. It's because our standards aren't really that high. And the fact is that if your standards do not change, you ever notice something here? When you look at this, if your standard does not change, then that means that the max in any portion of your life to coming to your potential is going to be right here. And what you'll do is that you'll live below it, you'll live up to this or whatever, but the reality is that this is going to be the lid in your life, even though this is what was actually possible for you in your life. So how do we change that, and how do standards change this? Because here's how you change it. When it comes to a standard, and I think I'm gonna grab a new color over here that kind of is matchy. When it comes to setting a standard, let's imagine that right here is where your standard started. But you got a little bit older, and you know what happens is that you get a little bit older and you're like, you know what? This was the standard when I was growing up of what you could expect in terms of my, and all of you have done this, by the way. You had a standard where you're like, oh, well, here's what it's expected in terms of education and opportunity and everything else. This is where my parents were. But what you ended up doing is that you ended up setting a higher standard. And many of you have done this when it comes to your education and your own personal development and some of those other kinds of things. So what ends up happening is that at some point when you stepped outside yourself, you went right here and you set a new standard. And then if you do this thing right, then possibly in your 20s, you set what do? You set a new standard. And you know what happens is that with every new standard that you create, let me see if I can borrow, I can't really borrow that image, is that what do? Is that you set a new goal based on the standard at which you go. So I set a new standard, and you know what I end up having as a result of a new standard? Result of a new standard is that I keep getting a new goal that's a little bit higher than where I was before. So that as I go along and I keep setting new standards for myself, every time I set a new standard, I've got a new goal that's a little bit higher. New standard again. What do I get? Ultimately, I keep getting new goals and I keep achieving things that I never thought was in the realm of possibility for here. See, this is how we actually come into potential, is the standard is more important than the goal, because the standard is going to determine whether or not you actually have a goal that's worthy of your potential, that is worthy of your calling and purpose. And this is actually how you come into destiny in your life. You see, the truth is, again, is that the life you have right now is actually a direct result of your standards. Look at the relationships that you have. Do you have a bad marriage? Do you have an okay marriage? Do you have a good marriage? Or do you have an extraordinary marriage? If you do not have an extraordinary marriage right now, that is your choice. And I'll tell you, I'm going to speak the truth tonight, because it's a place where we've settled. It's a place where we have been unwilling to confront, and you will never conquer something in your life unless you actually confront it. If you refuse to confront the scary places, the threatening places, the risky places, then you have chosen to live below your standards. See, if you're not in a relationship right now as a married person, for those of you who are married, that is absolutely intimate, where you are in love and everything else. If you're in a marriage where you're like, well, they're my best friend, I'm telling you, none of you, when you were a kid, dreamed of marrying and having a best friend. None of you, when you were children, dreamed of marrying some guy that you could just have kids with. None of you, when you were growing up, were dreaming of marrying a woman just so that you could have a house. No, you dreamed of getting married because you wanted to meet a lover, the love of your life, and all of those things would be the overflow of those things. But somewhere along the line, you settled for a lower standard than where you started. That's the truth bomb I want to give you. And everything else in your life, whether it's your career, your paycheck, your relationship with your children, your health, your money, your savings, you, whatever you like, whatever is important to you, every one of those things, you have either settled in a standard or you are living below the standards of which you started. And there's something in you right now that has made you choose to tolerate. And the only way that we live into a life that is matching our potential is to finally stop tolerating the life that we're in right now in any of those key areas. See, I'll say this as well. Your life only starts to change when what should happen actually begins to happen because it has become a must in your life. It's the difference between, well, I would like, in a perfect world, and I'd like to daydream about this, but right now there's a lot of shoulds. You should do this with your health. You should do this with your wife. You should do this with your children. You should do this with your career. You should wake up at this time every morning. You should stay away from social media many days out of the week. You should take a break from whatever. You should quit watching the news. You should work on yourself. You should learn whatever it is. But unless that should becomes a must, it will never change your life. This is what we're talking about. The standards is when we don't sit around having shoulds, but we progressively come into the people that we were made to be because we're not living below a standard and we're always setting new ones with everything. Now, some of you have already done these kinds of things as you went along in your life. If you go back, and we'll reverse engineer this process, but some of you did. There was a time when you were in a terrible marriage or you were in a terrible relationship, and you know what you did one day? You woke up one morning and you said, you know what? I'm not putting up with this anymore. And you made a standard. You set a new standard for how you would be treated. You set a new standard for what you would tolerate and what you would not tolerate. My mom used to always say stuff, and when she had enough, and when she finally got to her breaking point, she would say, all hell is about to break loose unless you do this thing right now. And we never got to see hell break loose, but it sounded really terrifying to me. So you know what that meant? It meant that we engaged. My mom would always have that breaking point, and she would say, no more. We're not going past this point any longer. That's what we're talking about. So if you look back in your life, all of you have done that. At times with your careers, at times with the money that you were making, with the relationships, with the friends that you cut off, family that you stepped away from, boundaries that you set. All of those things set a new standard, and it changed your life. And this is what we've got to learn again, is that to live to the next level of what's available for us means that we set new standards. I'm not saying all your standards are bad, by the way. I'm saying that it's going to require a higher standard and a higher expectation and a new responsibility and a new stewardship over your life, your gifts, your talents, your knowledge, your ability, those things that you know that you should be doing that you have been unwilling to do, the prices that you have not been willing to pay for the kind of life that you're supposed to be living. This is what we're really talking about. So let me ask you some convicting questions, because I said this last week, is that there has to be a conviction in your heart to live into the vision and the picture of that life that you're supposed to have. Here's some convicting questions for you. Where are you settling right now in your life? I want you to think about it. I don't think you've got to think about it very hard. In your career, where are you settling? What kind of a job? What kind of a career? How much of that, in your career, what's important to you in your career? What is the most important thing? And for most people, they could say, what's the most important thing in my career? What might be finances, might be. Are you making exactly the amount of money that you want to make? Are you getting paid what you are worth making? The amount that you're making right now, is it enough to take care of your family, take care of all of your responsibilities, and more, and to create some security for the future. And if it is not, you are settling. I'm not trying to be harsh. Let's just talk about being real here. Let's be real and let's be authentic. If we can't say yes to those standards, then we're living below a standard. Because if you can't feed yourself, and if your job is gone tomorrow or whatever, and you're kind of stuck or whatever, and you have no future options, you haven't thought about anything, then okay, we've got to set new standards. Again, in your relationships, think about your relationships with your children, with your spouse, or that significant other. Are you settling there? Do you have the amount of intimacy that you would expect to have, the one that you dreamed about when you were a kid, that you were going to give your life to this person? You were setting a vow and saying, I'm not going to look at anybody else because this is the man, this is the woman that I was deciding to have for the rest of my life. Do you have that right now? And I understand that it takes two, but it also takes one to actually initiate. And really, in many cases, that's all it really takes. But where are you settling? What things have you been unwilling to confront? Where are you walking on eggshells? What are you unwilling to endure? Where are you unwilling to go with regard to your family, your children? What are the things even in your own spirituality? I know I've got a lot of spiritual people who watch, on a Monday night. You know where you're settling right now. You know where you're not all in. You know where you haven't given all. You know when you talk one thing about things being so important, and you know the roller coaster ride that you're living with regard to those commitments that you make. What about your health? How many times are you going to say, I really need to get back in the gym? I really need to change my diet. I really need to take vitamins. I really need to do whatever. Enough of the shoulds. What's your standard for your health? And any other kinds of things, friends, hobbies, whatever those other kinds of things are. Here's a couple more convicting questions. Where have you previously had conviction, but you've ignored it? This is when I know that I have a standard and there's something in me that's eating me and it's calling me to more. But here's what ends up happening. For me, that's the voice of God. When I hear in my heart, Paul, you need to show up like this. You need to do this kind of a thing. And what it is that when I have a conviction that's happening in my heart, it's saying that here's what your potential is, and here's what you're made for, and you're living below it. But here's what ends up happening is that if you won't move with those things, it's an interesting thing that happens in your heart. If you will not move towards the things that you are convicted by and you ignore it long enough, this part of your heart actually becomes very, very hard. So if I feel a conviction that I'm supposed to do something for my wife that will build intimacy, I'm supposed to serve her in some kind of a way or whatever is required for me, and that's what's going to be the requirement to have the dream that I had when I was a kid, to be in love for the rest of my life after I get married. But if I decide, no, I'm going to withhold and I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to wait until that voice subsides in me, what ends up happening is that my heart gets hard to my own self. I won't respond to my own conviction in my heart, and I'll have a hard heart to my wife. And you know what ends up happening is that I do nothing. And I actually fall below my potential, and I go to an even lower base level than I was before. What are the things that you knew that you were supposed to start doing years ago with regard to your career, with regard to your relationship, your finances, or whatever? You know that there were times when you had a conviction. It's like, I really need to do this. And for whatever reason, you said no. When you ignored it, you ended up creating a hard, callous place in your heart, and you need to regain your heart in that area. I'm asking convicting questions because I want it to cut away the dullness in your heart. Where have you settled, and what prices are you paying because you've been willing to settle? Because the reality is that this is costing you something to not do it. Listen, there's a price to pay to go after things in your life. I understand that. But there's a greater cost for staying where you are right now. What do I mean that there's a greater cost? Well, because there are things that you have refused to confront, there's probably someone who is losing more than you are right now. And that should eat you up. Like, really. It's one thing for me. Like, for me, I don't need anything. Like, if I settled in my life And I basically just, I made just enough day by day to get by. I could be fine. All I need is a microwave and a couch. And I can do that anywhere in the world. I don't really care. I don't have needs. I can accommodate myself. I can shrink myself down. I don't need anymore. And this is what people will say. Well, I don't need anymore. I need to just get enough to get by. Well, bull crap. That's the most selfish thing. If you want to only get yourself by and you don't care about your children, you don't care about your spouse, you don't care about your family, you don't care about the world that's counting on you to show up and be a coach, show up and live into your destiny and purpose, which is all about helping other people step into their destiny and purpose. Listen, there are people who are losing because you're settling. There's people who are losing right now because you're tolerating things in your life. So when I go to bed at night, I have to think about the people who are watching me right now. I could decide it's President's Day. No one's going to tune in because it's President's Day. I don't need to show up tonight. Except that I need to show up tonight for your benefit, for our team, for all of the vendors, for all the people who count on our business, for all the people worldwide who count on us in every kind of way. But I can personalize it and say, for the family that I was entrusted with in my life, to know that they are taken care of for the next decades past my living, I show up today because I know it really matters. Because if I don't show up, I don't lose nearly as much as my children, my wife, you, the people in the world that I serve all over the world. Like globally, I feel that pressure of things. And it's not a bad pressure. I want my name to be called. You need to want your name to be called. So let me reverse engineer the process of every transformation that you've had in your life. This is the way we'll wrap it up. Every time that you've gotten change in your life, it always created a new standard by which you were living. So we can reverse engineer it for you to set a new standard. First of all, when you set a new standard in your life, it's because the pain in your life was too great to stay. You know what happens? A lot of times people end up in bad relationships and all kinds of stuff messes with their head. They buy a house together, they have a dog, they have investments, they have a lot of things that as you get together in any kind of a relationship that you start sharing things and you start sharing life. And the more that you start sharing life, what ends up happening in relationships, even in friendships, even in the town that you're living in, even in your family, what happens is that there ends up being this binding in this. Well, what ends up happening is that sometimes you lose your own identity in the process. Sometimes it is just so interconnected and so stitched together with you and interwoven that it feels very painful, because you know what ends up having to happen is that you don't to let go and to move on, or to move to a different town, or to move on in a career, or any of those other things. You know what ends up happening is that this starts to happen. But what ends up happening for the people who do choose to leave, and to leave, whether it's an abusive relationship or an unsatisfying relationship or a base kind of relationship or whatever it is that there's a point at which this pain of staying is more than this pain that's going to require this right here. And this is what's happened with every transformation and new standard that you ever had in your life. Whether that meant that you were going to have to be more responsible, whether that meant that you're going to have to be more structured in your schedule, it meant that you're going to have to get up earlier in the morning, it meant you were going to have to go back to school, it meant that you were going to have to learn things, it meant that you were going to have to give up the sure thing in your life to go after an unsure thing. It means that you have to leave one relationship behind in order to go after that relationship that you know where love actually lives. And this was never the standard. And you're leaving that behind, which you don't have to work for anymore, to go out and find something new. It meant that, you know what, you're going to have hard conversations with people. It means that some people will need to be cut off and not have that place of access point in your life anymore. There's a lot of pain that's involved in doing something new, but you have to be in so much pain that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Every change that you've ever had where you set a new standard, you're like, dude, this is too much and I got to move on. let me tell you this. If you want to set a new standard in your life and achieve that vision in your life, you need to turn the pain threshold up. That's why I asked you convicting questions, because some of you have gotten out of touch with your heart. Listen, it's terrible to live in apathy and passivity. That's one of the worst existences ever, is to pretend like you don't want something or you can't have something. Let's get in touch with those things again, because that is the first catalyst for actually changing your life. Every transformation that you had started when your conviction about your identity called you higher. It's kind of like these people who are like, I'd like to quit drinking, but I couldn't imagine ever not drinking. It's been a part of my life. I'd like to quit smoking, but I'm a smoker and I've been a smoker for decades or whatever. Then it's like, you know what? It's going to be really hard to quit smoking or drinking if you think that you're a smoker or a drinker. You get that? When it's become a part of your identity, then your identity is what actually produces the actions that you do in your life. But as long as you relate to yourself as a loser or not as smart or not structured, or I have ADHD, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good at math, or I'm not pretty enough, or, I'm scared of people, I'm an introvert, I'm not good at computers, I'm not good at presentation skills, I'm not good at selling, I'm not good at writing, all of those other kinds of things. When they become a part of your identity, then it means you can't live past your identity. But every transformation that we've ever had in our life not only started with the pain that I couldn't stay here any long, but there was a conviction that says, you know what? This is where I've been living, but I know there's something in me and I've never seen it. There's something that echoes in my heart that I was made for more than the life that I'm living in right now. You've got to be convicted that there was something more that you're living here on the planet for. You got to be convicted about who you are, because your who is going to actually your who is actually going to determine what your do is in your life. That's why even with my kids, if they do something that is outside of their character, like if my kid lies to me, I'm not going to call my kid a liar. Now, I grew up in a childhood, many of you did, when you told a lie and everybody called you a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire, all this. They had songs, they had everything, and you could never live past your mistakes. I understand, though, that I'm not going to put that identity and I'm not going to put that brand on my children because it's damaging. But if they do something that's outside of what my expectation of who they are, then I'm going to say, that's not who you are. This is who you are. And you're a person of integrity and you tell the truth and you never leave people astray. You have an impeccable integrity. Why would I say something like that? Because I want to call them higher towards who they really are. See, there needs to be a conviction that you are better than what you've been living. And many of you know that. You've been settling, you've been lazy. Oh, did I just say that? Yeah, I did. Some of you have been lazy. Some of you have not followed through. Some of you have not done the things. You have a whole list. You've got journals of different kinds of things that you've written about what you would do in your life. You got bullet points. You've got checkpoints. You got Tony Robbins things that you've done. You got Mel Robbins things. You got stacks of self-improvement books and everything else. You know your triggers. You know your trauma, and you haven't taken the step. Listen. That's who you really are. There needs to be a conviction and a stirring and an echo in your heart that there is something more to you, and you need to be convicted in your identity of who you actually are. As we keep moving, though, is that every transformation started when you knew you could be more than what you were right then. When you knew you were more valuable than what anybody was treating you, than any circumstance that you were in or any situation that you found yourself in. And transformation started when you knew you were living below what was possible. I'll show you this picture again just as we're closing. I wonder if you guys could look at this thing right now. When you look at this and you're able to say, and I'm going to get a red color, this is ultimate purpose, where this crown is. And let's say that this was your starting point when you were born. I wonder what the gap is between what you were given the day that you were born and what you've done with it. what you've stewarded. I wonder how many of you would probably say, I'm probably right here. Because if this is a percentage and this is like 100% fulfillment of everything that was possible for you in your life, where would you be? Would you be at 90%? Would you be at 80%? Would you be at 70? Would you be at 60? Would you be at 50, 40, 30, 20, as low as 10? Doubtful that you're at 10. But when you look at this right here, I wonder how many of you would say, I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty close to 100%. Probably none of you. You know what? I could take a poll out of the room without even talking to you right now, and I can say this with almost 100% certainty, that most of you are probably going to say you're in this range right here. This is where most of you are going to say that you're at. You're going to say, yeah, I'm about living in this place right here. And you know what that is right there? It's a place where change can happen. It's a tension between where you are and where you could be. You know what that tension is? Is that there's just enough pride in every one of you that even if I ticked some of you off a while ago and you said, you called me lazy, you called me settling in my marriage, you told me not afraid to confront things and everything else, you didn't like those things. Some of you stuck around this entire time. Appreciate that. But you know what? There's just enough pride in every one of you that even though you wouldn't say that I was right a while ago, you'd say, there's enough pride in me to know, man, I've got a lot more. There's more to me than what I am living. And see, this place right here is where tension needs to mount so that you can actually become who you were made to be. And if I brought you right here, and most of you, which I could pretty much guarantee that almost every one of you said that you lived in this 60 to 70% range, then I did my job tonight. Because this is all I wanted to show you, is that you're settling. Whatever this is right here, see that area right there? Whatever is going on, when you say potential and everything else, see that section right there that you see? It's where you're tolerating. And this might be in your marriage, it might be in your career. And here's the thing, is you don't need me to tell you what you need to do in those areas because you already know. But you need to do something. Because I'm not coming off of this thing. I'm pretty determined that who's ever around me, that we're going to open doors. I had calls today. Some things that I've put together for a whole group of people who are up and coming leaders that are 20 somethings, and that I told them, I want you to give me a week of your life. You're going to pay in your own dime in April, and we're going to do something all the way down the coast of California. Who's in? And they're like, we're in. I had calls today from different various things all the way down the coast of California, where I'm going to bring people who are unknown and do things with them all the way down. And it's like, oh, this is amazing, because I'm looking for hungry people. I'm looking for people who don't want to settle, who want to be challenged, who want to be pushed, who want to actually do the thing that's in their heart and to leave fear behind. And hopefully you're that person. And my belief is, if you're still around, well, you are that person. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach yet, best opportunity that I could actually give you is this Jumpstart program. Jumpstart Your Coaching Practice includes life coach certification, both through our self-paced course, through our live Tuesday nights, as well as our live boot camp that is this coming weekend. Now, this costs us money to give you this program, as opposed to just asking you to sign up for boot camp, because boot camp's $247, which you can do, by the way. But if you want a business development roadmap, in addition to getting trained and certified, then Jumpstart's by far the best deal, because this program's worth really over $10,000. And if I separated all of those courses, then you would see how much they were, what the value of each of them would be. And we're giving it to you for $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. This weekend, though, is boot camp weekend. It's February 23rd through the 25th. We start on Friday night and we go all day Saturday and all day Sunday. It's 7 powerful weekend sessions where we give you starting with the foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, and how to establish a growing coaching practice. We include live coaching demos, so you will have coaching demonstrated for you, and you will also practice as a coach. We have live Q&As at the end of every one of those sessions because we're not going to leave any stone unturned. We're going to answer any of your questions, and we're going to give you great confidence moving forward on not only how to coach, but how to start a coaching practice. Again, what's included are the 7 sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You're also going to get as bonuses, coaching tools, question samples. You're going to get the 500 coaching questions book. You're going to get the coaching tool starter pack, which are 5 powerful tools to start your client's transformation. You're also going to get brandable templates for everything inside your coaching practice, for like coaching agreements, invoices, all of those other kinds of things. Of course, you're going to get your life coach certification. You will get a certificate, and you will get replays in HD, as well as free audits for life. The cost is only $247. Now, there's a payment plan for that. If you want to just go that route and get trained and certified, more power to you. Join us this Friday. We're going to get that knocked out. If you need business development help in addition to getting trained and certified, then I'm going to recommend to go the Jumpstart route. It's 3-month minimum commitment, $97 a month. That's Starbucks every day, $3.25 a day. That's not a lot of money. Those of you who have been looking around at other coach training programs that are out there, you know they cost between $4,000 to $12,000, and they don't teach you how to get clients. So you're walking around with a brand new certificate, and no one knows the school you went to or any of those other things, and you're like, what do I do with this now? Well, we take all the guesswork out. We take you by the hand. Right now, we've got the people who are going through our Jumpstart program doing the coaching product launch blueprint. I'm literally taking them by the hand to help them not only launch their coaching practices, but also create coaching products and numerous streams of income so that they're not starving coaches. They're actually coaches who have a lot of free time and they have freedom in their schedule, and they're helping a lot of people. Again, this program is only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. The link is inside the description of this video, and you can jump over there and get enrolled in like 90 seconds. Let me say hello to a few people who are saying hello to me. There's Mary Ann from Virginia. Sandy is joining us from New Jersey. Joan joining us from Bakersfield. I was close to your area of the world yesterday, Joan. My daughter was in a gymnastics competition, and so we had to go your way. So that was hours and hours of driving to get over there, and she ended up being like number 7 overall in her division, which was pretty cool. So that was cool. Melissa is joining us from Ohio. Good to see you, Melissa. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Do me a huge, huge favor. Like this post and share it. Oh, and there's Bill. How's it going? Bill from Texas. Do us a huge favor. Like this post and share it. Like I said, I don't do fluffy stuff. Think about you guys all the time. I think about investing in you guys all the time, and I never want to waste anybody's time. But this was helpful for you tonight. It'll take you 1 second to like this post. It'll take you a second to share it. Even better if you jump inside of the video description and you can get enrolled in either the life coach certification course. You can go through that self-paced, or you can join us, or you can get enrolled in boot camp, which will be this weekend. We'll do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're done with all your training. Or you can join us in Jumpstart. You can get all of the courses and all of the help that I mentioned, as well as we'll walk alongside you to help you knock out launching your coaching practice. We've got you covered, and we've been doing this for the last 10 years, and we would love to be a part of the journey with you. There's Sabrina saying hello from Virginia. Good to see you, Sabrina. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Sabrina said this was really good. My toes hurt. Uh-oh, I stepped on some toes. Oh, man. Well, good. Well, you're still here, so that's a very encouraging sign. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week, and take care. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. as we're beginning, just a huge favor. You see that right there below the bottom. Let us know where you're joining us from. Let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from. Maybe one thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on. What we love to do on these, if you've never joined us for a Mentor Monday, is to impart, encourage you, and give you some practical tools to help you as you are venturing out and starting your own coaching practice, starting new chapters in your life, and all of those things. We want to give you practical tools, and we also want to give you great inspiration to help you move forward. So just a huge favor, jump in right here and tell us where you are joining us from and say hello to us, because we're not interested in just simply being talking heads. I'm going to grab my little clicker because I'm going to need it a lot today, actually, with some of the things that we're going to be sharing with you. I'm going to pause just for a second, just because I know that I'm at least 30 seconds ahead of you so that you can say hello. There is Joan joining us from Bakersfield, California. Welcome, Joan. So excited for another Mentor Monday. And I am too. I actually think that tonight is going to be better than all 3 of the weeks so far in this series called The Vision-Led Coach. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback about it over the last couple of weeks. And so I'm excited about continuing that. And along the way, before I even get started and do anything, let me say this to all of the moms who celebrated your amazingness this weekend. It's not enough to celebrate you just one day. I want to say thank you to all of the moms who are out there that are watching, whether it be in this present moment or in the future. Every day of your life should be Mom's Day, because you literally make the world go round in about every way possible. I was raised by an incredibly loving, powerful woman named Barbara, and my wife, I also married what I feel like was the other incredible, most powerful woman that I've ever met in my life, which was my wife, Jessica. And so I love you both. And for any of you who are watching, I just want to thank you for being moms, doing everything that you do, and literally filling the planet, holding the planet together, giving us hope for the future and our children and all of those other kinds of things, everything that you guys bring to the table in every kind of way. I would be lost without my mom. I would be completely lost again if I didn't have my wife and her being the other half of me, like literally, like this is a partnership, right? An equal partner in my life, in my ambitions, helping me in those kinds of ways, while at the same time being who she really is for my children. And I have 3 women that we're raising up to be powerful women in the world. And so I'm thankful for all of the models of all of that we've had around in our life, and definitely directly influencing their genes, literally, which is amazing. There's Monica joining us from Highland, New York. Looking forward to Vision Part 3. Thank you. Harvey's joining us from South Florida. Just set up an appointment to discuss writing articles for a sales professional association. Cool. Selah joining us from Los Angeles, and first time watching. Oh, wait. Yeah, it is Salem. Christopher, who's joining us from Augusta, Georgia. So anybody else that would like to say hello to us, we welcome you, and we're excited. And hopefully that last email actually went out to tell everybody that we were getting ready to go live. You never can tell. Sometimes those things kind of get stuck along the way. So what have we been talking about for the last couple of weeks? Well, last couple of weeks, we've been in this series called The Vision-Led Coach. And in the first couple of weeks, we talked about the exponential power of vision and actually how you really begin thinking about vision. And let me give you another really quick definition, our working definition for this series of vision, which is a picture of the future, which could be, should be, and must be. You can understand that all of us can have a dream, a picture of the future that could happen, but not all of us have moved into this realm of something should happen and it must happen. And when we say that it should happen and it must happen, then what we're really talking about is that we're participating with the vision, that picture that we see. And last week, we talked into some detail about how you initiate that, but where do you really start? And let me say hello to a couple more people really quickly. There's Lynn joining us from Vermont. Hey, Lynn. And there's Tara joining us from Vegas. Welcome, Tara. and Simply Tamara from Central Florida. Awesome. And so this week, really what happened is I started working on today. And what I really believe is that this actually has to be split up into two, because there were two really important components that I really believe that I couldn't cover in one session. So what we'll do is that we'll finish it next week, but you're not going to feel like you're missing anything except that because you're going to have your work cut out for you today. When it comes to living into a vision, really it begins with you. It starts the change because we're wanting to see change in and around our life. Because what we really understand with vision is that vision means that right now my life does not look like it should. The world does not look like it should look right now. It has the potential of looking that way, but right now we're caught in the tension. We're kind of like in this hallway between both of these realms, and there's a tension. And the more that you can get in touch with a tension, the greater degree of the possibility that you're actually going to do something about it. You need to feel that tension. But a big part of this tension and actually living into this vision to actually operate, to move towards it, to do the things that we need to do to make it come into reality is going to require something of us. And it's going to require us showing up in life in a different way. That's why, actually, before our vision can happen, see, there's a reason why the vision hasn't already happened. And honestly, there's a main character in the role of vision. We haven't put two and two together. The main character in the role of vision is actually us, because it's our vision. And if it's going to happen, then it's going to actually have to happen through us, the way that we envision and the intentionality that we have in our life to move towards it. So before the world can change, like I want the world to change, but really before any of those things change and we come into that picture, before we change the picture means that we have to change. But I'm going to share a couple of statistics with you that probably you maybe have never heard before. And that first one is really this, is that less than 5% of people are actually living into vision, that they actually have a vision and that they are actually living purposefully towards that vision. Because it's really important for us to understand something here. Vast majority of people do not have a vision, and if they do, they're not living into it. And there's a big reason why, and it's because of what's going on inside here. Because if there's going to be external change always follows internal change. It means that something has to happen to us. But the reality is that most people out walking the planet, sucking up air, consuming resources and everything else, get the same or the similar results every year of their life. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have some small changes that are happening. It doesn't mean that no one is changing at all, because I do believe human beings change. You know, we can probably all think about certain views and opinions and different things that we have in our life. But can we look at our life and see something that drastically shifted our perspective and moved us towards the thing that the way that we envisioned our life? Most people would have to admit that they've if they've had a climb in their life, that it may only be like 3 to 5 to 6 to 10 to maybe 15 or 20 degrees. And if we go back in life, if we go back to a younger version of ourselves, maybe that 18-year-old version, maybe that college version, that 20-something version, at what percentage do you think that incline is actually taking place in your life? How much have you, when it comes to the big picture in your life, what you dreamed of, what you really thought that your life would actually look like, what percentage towards that have you moved? And for some of us, we might be able to see at least qualitatively, maybe quantitatively in our life, some changes, but is it a drastic change? And I would argue that the vast majority of people don't see a significant change in their life. They just kind of see small progressive changes over their life. The other thing is that people aren't typically experiencing substantial change in their life. So they see maybe something that looks a little bit more towards that picture, but like internally, them as a person, they don't really change a ton. And so the reality is that if external change follows internal change, then what we'd have to say is that the reason why we're not seeing the world like we want it to be, what we hope to see, is because maybe we haven't caught up with our own transformation, and maybe we haven't been intentional enough. Because as I said, less than 5% of people are living a vision-led life. We're going to do a really quick test, and I don't want you to think this is a setup, but this is a really good test of whether or not you're living a vision-led life. And I'm just going to ask you like 3 questions, and I don't want you to put it in the comments because this is a no shame zone, okay? All right, so here's the 3 questions. Here's question number 1. Have you written out a life plan? And if you have, what is it? Have you written out that plan of your life? Right now, at whatever age that you're at, if we could fast forward and see your life at like age 80, age 90, now you got grandkids and all those other things. Have you already written out what that plan is? What does that picture look like? Have you already written that out and thought about it in express detail? And where can you track? Because if I said, have you written it out? If so, what is it? And where are you tracking? Are you on track exactly with what you believe that picture is? And I'd say that almost no one that I've ever met in my life can say, yes, I've written out a life plan. Well, if you haven't written out a life plan, we'll go a little bit easier. If you haven't written a life plan, have you written out a 10-year plan? And if so, what is that 10-year plan look like? In explicit detail, what does that vision look like? And what does that plan, what does that picture actually look like? And if we, and where are you tracking on your 10-year plan? I've met one person in my life that had a 10-year plan. One person. In all these years of living and coaching, I've met one person who had a 10-year plan in their life. Now, we'll go a little bit easier. If you haven't done a 10-year plan, have you written out a 1-year plan? And if so, what is it? And where are you tracking with regard to that? Now, again, I'm telling you, this is not a setup at all, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. What I am saying is it's pretty much 100% if we can't answer any of these things in the affirmative that we're not really vision-led. We don't really have a picture of what that future looks like. And it's actually causing us a lot of pain and heartache and a lot of problems. I'm going to remind you of a quote that I said a couple of weeks ago, which is this one by Andy Stanley, where he says, everybody ends up somewhere in life, and a few people end up somewhere on purpose. What I want you to understand is that as I'm saying these things, when I say 10-year plan, when I say a 5-year plan, and I'm saying a 1-year plan, I'm not talking about activities and goals. So if any of you said, oh, I've got a 1-year plan and I've got my goals, well, you misunderstood the assignment, so I'm correcting it right now. And hopefully nobody's filling things in the chat or whatever, but I don't want to upset anybody. But if you have a 5 or a 10-year plan or a 1-year plan and it's goal-based, that is not a vision. Goals and visions are not the same. Activities and visions are not the same. Because a vision is not the same as setting a goal, because you can actually accomplish a goal and not really have a vision. What do you mean by that? Well, let's think about this. I'm gonna help you use your noggin on this and picture this. How you like that? How many of you know someone that you were in high school with, and all they talked about was, one day I'm gonna be rich, one day I'm gonna make $1 million or whatever, and by gosh, as you got older, you've met that person and they have done exactly what they said that they were going to do back when you were in high school. And you always knew. They probably wrote it in the high school yearbook, most likely to be a millionaire or something like that. But you meet them now, and you know, I give my age away because I'm happy to tell people that I'll turn 48 years old. Some of you are a little bit older and younger. But let's fast forward and we see these people. Maybe they live in our community. Maybe we just see them on Facebook. And you're like, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. But they look like they aged 30 years. They look like their hair fell out prematurely, and not just because it was a natural genetic occurrence. They have major health issues that are going on in their life. Their relationship with their kids is non-existent. Their relationship with their spouse is non-existent. They've been through multiple marriages. Some of these people, and we can kind of think about it. Let's think about whether it was somebody who had a dream to be famous, and then they got caught up into all kinds of legal trouble after they got all the money and the fame that they thought that they would get, or they did some kind of domestic violence thing, or like we're surprised when we hear these things. We also hear some of these athletes, some of these super athletes who get multi-million-dollar contracts. They're making tens of millions of dollars every year. They turn 30, they go into retirement, and then they're broke within 5 years. Like this is a major statistic. Within 5 years, the average professional athlete who's made millions of dollars goes completely broke, and now they've got legal troubles, and they usually, with legal troubles, ends up coming family troubles, and sometimes a lot of other things that kind of come along with that. Here's what I can say about all of those people and everything that I was just describing. Goals and activities are not the same as vision. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? What I'm really saying in this is that you've got people that are possessed by goals in many cases, and even the way to get there. Many people achieve their goal and they achieve their dream, but the picture of their life afterward is not anything like what they thought it would look like. They didn't have this picture at all. I guarantee you, the 30-somethings that have lost all of their tens of millions of dollars as a professional athlete, and they have broken marriages, and they don't have a home anymore, and everything's kind of legally like bound up and everything. I guarantee you, when they were a teenager, they were not picturing their life finishing up like this. They didn't. That picture that they had in their mind with the goal thought that everything would take care of itself. But that's a person who had a dream and a goal, and they had an ambition and they worked on it, but they didn't actually have a vision. Imagine if they would have had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a life plan, a true vision. What does that look like? Because it's all encompassing. You know why? Because your goal is not the same as a vision, because a vision actually takes into account what your relationships look like when you become an adult. It takes into account what your relationship with your spouse is going to look like when you're in your 50s. It takes into account what your relationship with your children are going to be from the time that they are 1 till they are 71. A vision does those kinds of things. A vision prepares for a future that is going to involve your grandkids and their grandkids. That's what a vision actually looks like. And even though people have achieved massive things, sometimes given things away, most people actually, if they don't get lost in achieving their goal, they get lost in the activities that are involved in achieving that goal. Like what do I mean by that? Well, the activity of parenting. That's what a lot of people get stuck in. People get stuck in the activity of marriage, the things that you've got to do. They get lost in the activity of paying bills. They get lost in the activity of keeping up. Sometimes people get lost in just the everyday activity of upkeeping your body with regard to what are you working out? Are you exercising? Are you feeding yourself? Are you showering? Are you relieving yourself in the bathroom? And how's that going? I know that sounds terrible. I'm just making sure that you're not asleep. But the reality is that people get caught up in activity all the time. The activity of making money, the activities of it's required to do the things that you are doing. Now, here's the thing that I'd say about that is that a lot of times you get lost in goals and activities. And you know why people get lost in their goals and their activities? Because they don't have a why. When you don't know your why, when you lose your why, you don't realize is that it's your why that actually aligned you and made you normal and where you're at. So that what ends up happening is that why most people are unsatisfied in their lives is that they don't know what's most important, which is their why. So they're out of alignment and they simply do activities and maybe accomplish a goal or two along the way, but they don't actually fulfill their purpose. See, this is the important thing for us to understand. It's the reason why people end up in dead-end careers, dead-end jobs, dead-end relationships, everything else, because they don't really live for a vision. It's why people sometimes get so stuck in making money that they feel like they can't actually stop doing the activities that they're doing because they're going to lose what little thing they have right now. Like, what keeps people working in a dead-end job and a dead-end career? What that activity, it's like they feel like they've worked themselves into a hole and now they can't say no to the thing that they're doing. They do the same thing with relationships. They do the same thing with anything that is unsatisfied in their life. They can't stop the activity because they feel like they'll lose what little thing that they have left in their life. This is a person who has no vision. This is a person who has lost hope, or they've lost a semblance of what that picture could actually look like, and don't realize that they are the biggest character. They are the main character in their story, and they don't know what to do about it. I don't know if this is striking a nerve with any of you. And I hope that it's not offensive in any kind of way, because what I want you to really get and understand out of this is that if you really can get latched onto your why, if you can paint the picture, if you can get clear about the picture, and if I have your commitment to actually doing something about this, that you know that you're the biggest character in your story, not the job that you're working, not paying the bills, not the tax person, not government, not anybody else, that I understand that I am the biggest contributor to my story. I am the main character. I've been given the pen in my life, and I am not abdicating responsibility for fulfilling the vision in my life. If you can really grasp that and grab a hold of it and get aligned with what your vision is, you can actually live into what it is. You can get aligned into your why. Because what happens is that when you lose your why, you know what you do? You keep doing what you're doing, even if it doesn't fulfill your purpose. And this is what a lot of us get stuck doing. We lose our why. You would not believe the countless people over the last 20 years that I have talked to, people who have succeeded and done great things. You're looking at them and you're like, they got everything. They got the car. Like, I've literally had people, saw them drive up in their fancy convertible with the top down, sit down in front of me, distraught, and they said, I don't even know what my why is, Paul. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Could you please give me some purpose in my life? Help me find purpose in my life. Can you imagine giving that much? Like, I've watched it, the stories that I have with people who are nearing retirement age that have bank accounts and success and everything else and pensions. And we're talking about people who have done significant things that have sat across from me and said, I need to find my why again. Like, it has no point. It has no meaning. It has nothing. These are people who, even as they were going along the way, didn't realize that what they were doing, the activities that they were doing, didn't actually fulfill a purpose, but they kept doing them. So what we understand is that when you do know your why, you know what you get permission to do? You start actually taking control of your life again, because you can freely stop or change activities that aren't helping you accomplish your vision. Hey, this is for those of you who are stuck in a dead-end job and a career, and you keep acting like you can't stop doing what you're doing because now something else is going to fall apart. Hey, guess what? If you know your why, you can quit that job. If you know what your real why, what that picture is, you can stop some of the things that you're doing. You can quit putting your vision as a side project over here, because that's where it lives for most people. It's a side project, it's a dream, but honestly, it's not truly a vision until we take ownership over it and we're doing something about it. You know, when you don't have vision that is aligned with your why, because a vision is actually influenced by the why. What am I talking about? Your why. Why do you do anything that you do? What the critical why behind your vision makes everything in alignment, and it makes your goals and it makes your activities make a lot of sense. Here's how vision actually aligns you. Let me show you a picture of this. So if this is a line and this is what alignment is, your vision that's actually based on your why is the first place. See, that most people don't start with why. You know where they start? They start with, I need to get out and make money. I need to make money. I need to do this. I need to hustle. I need to get this thing out of the way. They're not really on the why. They're on the activity of making money. Or sometimes they're like, and they have like short-term little things, short-term little fixes. Like, I need to get another vehicle. I need to get a bigger house. I need to get whatever. I need to be able to accommodate certain things. So they don't actually go after vision. They go after short-term goals as their priority, or they go after activities. How many of us, and I'm not saying it's a wrong thing, I'm saying that one of the things that was important is that we wanted to take care of our families better, or we wanted to do something. And then we ended up not having a long-term vision for our family. And we took a job that sucked, took a job that paid pretty well, but we hated our life every day. Or it took all of our joy away. Or listen to this. The person who goes out and works their butt off at work comes home and they got nothing left for their kids. And they feel terrible because their primary value, if you really ask them what was most important, is that dad is involved in their kid's life, is that mom is involved in their kid's life, but they sacrificed that picture for whatever else was also a good thing. See, these are people. What ends up happening is that when you're aligned and you're doing activities, you may never achieve your vision. When you're just doing goals, you might again get to accomplishing some things. You might visibly have some improvements and increases in your life, but it's never going to look like the life that you really believe that it should look. What did we say? In the wheel of life, maybe that area is your health. Maybe that area is your finances. Maybe that area is your children. Maybe that is your marriage. Maybe it is whatever your greater purpose on the planet, what you're here to actually do, how you're here to change the world. See, all of those things have to be in balance. Like, we have to fully live, but we need to know what our why is behind that and live into it. Because when you have your why in order, your why does something for you. Your why actually begins to inform and lead to goals. See, your goals aren't what leads you. Your vision is what leads you. And your vision is all about why, because your why are the things that are most important to you. But see, the other thing that happens as well is that once you have goals, you know what ends up happening is that your goals flow as well. Your goals lead to actions in your life. So do you see how the alignment actually works? Is that when you work on yourself and you know what's most important, what your why is. Most people don't start there because most people don't know their why. Most people don't know what's most important to them. But when you do, then you know what? It simplifies everything. You know what? I'm not going to do actions that take me out of alignment with my vision. I'm not going to keep doing actions as well that don't help me get to my vision. I'm not going to keep setting goals that unless they are fully aligned with my vision. So I understand that to be vision-led means that I start with why. And here's the thing, is that your work that you did last week can actually be very helpful. Is that the stuff that could be, should be, must be are all attached to a why. There's something that's really deeply important to you. And if you don't know what it is, then you need to actually do the work, because you know what ends up happening is that actually after you do the work and you completely know what your why is, like sometimes we make decisions and you're like, this decision, I think it just kind of feels right. I'm not really certain, but my gut's kind of telling me that maybe this is the right decision. Or we're so conflicted and we can't make a decision. You know what your why does? Your why helps make the decisions clear. Like someone who struggles in making decisions, and for some of you who will not make a clear, irrevocable decision towards your vision, it's because you don't know what's most important to you right now. And you won't claim that thing is your possession. You've got to possess vision. You can't just possess actions. You can't just possess goals. You have to possess the picture of the way it all plays out. Because here's the other thing. My goals can change. My actions can change. You know what? My goals and my actions serve my vision. And there might be 100 different ways to actually get there. You know what? Goals do change. Plans do change. Actions do change. Tactics change all the time. That's not what's most important to me. What's most important to me is that I know what that picture looks like because my values have influenced it, and it's really clear what's most important. And you know what? I don't have to suffer over a job that I quit. I don't have to suffer over a career that I invested 10 years of learning and 10 years of work in. I don't suffer over those things. I remember the first time that I was up against this is when I was in college. I got into a prestigious medical program as I think I was maybe 19 years old, maybe 20. Now, here's the thing: is that they didn't let people in that age group get into into that program for a few different reasons. One is because they wanted to see maturity. One is that you really wanted to have a momentum of education and get things under your belt. There are all these different reasons, but I'm the only kid that they ended up letting into the thing. And after I worked, and I had the grades, I was doing everything. I had the clinical stuff going. I was working in hospitals. And you know what I learned when I started working in the hospital? Because there were certain things, there were certain comparisons to individuals in my family, because there's people in my family who are in the medical field. There were certain individuals that I really looked up to, that I aspired to be like. And there were all these different things. And granted, there was the money thing and there was the prestige and all this other stuff. But after I started working in the hospital, I was like, I hate working with sick people. Like, I hate it. I hate everything about all of this stuff, except for the prestige and being smart in the classroom and everything else. I grew increasingly like, I really don't like this. Now, I didn't have 10 years in the thing, but I did have a couple of years where where I studied and I did a lot of different things. And obviously, there's these classes that will not transfer to do anything for me because they were completely into biological sciences and anatomy and physiology and all of this other stuff. I'd literally been treating patients at this point in my clinical work. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I had to go and look people in the eyes who believed in me and disappoint them. I had to look at certain family members in the eyes and said, I've made all of this financial investment. I know you believed in me. I've got all this momentum, but I can't do this. And I altered my degree entirely. And you know what? It actually took me a lot longer to graduate from school. Matter of fact, I had to take a year off from school and make some money and all this other stuff. I went on the long track around this. And you know what I would say? It was all completely worth it. And it's not the first time that I've done it. I've done it with careers a couple of times. I've done it after being married and having children. You know what? Me and my wife did it when I wasn't really making that much money. I was making about $32,000 a year. And my wife says, I feel like right now in this season, because I haven't been, we're about to have this child. I feel like our greatest value is for me to be with her. And you know what? We didn't take much time on the decision. You know what? Quit this job. I don't know how we're going to make it on $32,000 a year and 2 kids and all of this other stuff that's going on. But we made that decision. I made that decision again with a major career change coming into coaching. I'm just telling you that at a certain point, you have to understand is that when your values guide you, when vision guides you, it leads you to changing actions and changing goals. What you can see is a track record of, hey, for 20 plus years, I can see how I've been helping people and showing up in their life and doing certain kinds of things. At the end of it, after all these years, I can see convergence in my life and I can say, yeah, and I've always been doing this and this has always been aligned with my purpose. And for a while there, that wasn't. And we made bold decisions, sometimes costly decisions, at least in the short term, to make things happen. But this is what vision does. Vision is, when you're vision led, is choosing not to be fear led. It's choosing not to be security led by whatever your finances or your bank account is saying. We at one time we downgraded all the way into a barely 700 square foot cottage with 1 bathroom. And we had 1 vehicle that didn't really run that well. We downgraded as much as we possibly could because there were certain things that we saw in our life that we were here to do, and it was worth the risk. Yes, it was really hard. Worn out jeans. You should have seen the way that I looked when I was first starting my coaching career. I got a scooter so that we had a second vehicle, and I would drive to meet high-end clients at coffee shops with 1 pair of dress pants and 2 dress shirts that I would alternate. One was blue and one was white. And what I counted on is that people would kind of look at me like attorneys seem to wear the same thing every day. That's what I kind of hope, that no one would notice that I'm always wearing the same outfits. And it was worth it. We're here today talking because of the sacrifices that knowing what most important is leads you to. And my wife and I are not done with sacrifices. We're always living on the edge of being a little bit unsettled. You know why? Because we understand that settling may be the worst thing when it comes to actually living into our purpose. There are certain things that I would say right now are stable for my family and put in order for my kids if something happened to me. But I would say outside of those things right there, there's a certain degree of unsettledness in our life right now that if we needed to move to Africa tomorrow, we would go and do it, because we understand that the calling and purpose on our life, it has to submit to security and fears and personality types and all those things. So as we're leaving, let me give you just some tips on how do you actually find your why. Here's the first thing. First of all, do a values assessment. If you have not done a values assessment at this stage in your life, you really need to. Because what you have to understand is that your why is actually connected to the part of your brain that controls emotions, but it doesn't control language. So that when you feel something, you know that you are onto something. What am I even saying in all this? Well, here's one way that you can do it. There's a lot of different ways. I would not recommend taking an online assessment that says values, because they're all terrible. What I would say is, like, there's this tool called the One Core Values, but there's a lot of them. You can find a word bank with all of these things. Like, you'll see all these words in it: travel, nature. I'm just letting them drop. Fairness, justice. There's all these different things that it might say. You really only live your life out of 4 primary whys or core values in your life. When you know what those things are, it really simplifies and makes your decisions easy and aligns your life, because what you understand is this part of your brain that helps you understand what your why is not the language portion of your brain. It's part of this like limbic system or whatever. And basically it's a lot of feeling. Because what I would say is that if fairness is a value of yours, if it's part of your why, fairness feels like something. Like for me, achievement is one of my primaries. What is it about achievement? How do I know that that's my value? I actually seek achievement, and I have in my life for many, many years. But achievement actually feels like something. Like it's a certain state of being that all of us are actually pursuing in our life. I don't want achievement because I want to achieve things. I want achievement because it feels like something. For those of you who want security in your life, you don't really want security. You want security because it feels like something. You don't even want money. You want money because of what it gives you that is part of the value. Maybe it's security. Maybe it's something with your family. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's attached to achievement. Finances were never attached to achievement for me. I found those in different kinds of ways. So we can differ on those different things. What I'm saying is that when you can connect it into your emotions, that is a really great way to actually understand this thing. Because anything you want in your life is actually attached to a feeling. There's a state of being that you'll always feel. Now, here's another thing that I'll say. When you look at any part of your life, this is another way that you can find your why. When you look at any part of your life and you think of a picture of what it could look like, fully beautiful, fully manifested, why does it need to look like that? When you can think of that picture, you can probably connect a why with it. Why does it have to look like this with your family? Why does it have to look like this with your spouse? Why does it have to look like something with your career? All of those kinds of things. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to achieve that? To completely live into that? What does it feel like to never live into that? To know that you would never live into that? You know what those feelings are going to tell you? It's going to help you strike a nerve with what is most important. It's going to help you strike a nerve with the why. Here's the last thing that I'll give you. Is that one thing that you can do is that you can find a good friend or a person that you work with, somebody who can think about the times when you are at your best. And sometimes what you can do with these people, and every now and then it can be a close friend or a family member, But what you really want is that you want somebody who can give you a metaphor for, I'll give you an example. And this is what I'll close with. In my life, what I would say my adult life, which I really did not, I really don't feel like began until I got married. Like whatever was happening, there was something adultish that happened when I got married, and I don't know what that was exactly. Besides the fact that I wasn't living selfishly anymore, but I feel like my adult life did not begin until I got married. And then after I got married, my wife and I did life, and we've moved, and we've had accomplishments and different kinds of things that have happened. But if I look back, it's not really been hard for me to figure out what my why is. But one of the things that has helped me over the years is friends and different people who I've met through the years who can tell me what kind of an impact I have on their life. What do they think about when they think of me? In many cases, people think in pictures. Like if you ask somebody, they probably couldn't really put it into a definition or a sentence, but they might be able to think of it in a picture. That's why I say a metaphor. Hey, if you think of me, what picture do you think of me? And come up with 3 different pictures about me. And you know what they're going to do? They're usually going to embody some things about you. If I go back and I'll capture a lot of these things. I've literally recorded people who started saying something encouraging to me, and I said, "Wait a minute, let me get my phone. I want to record this because I want to remember it." And I have all of these through the years, and I could share with you. I could play the audio of you for you right now, where people said, "You know, Paul, when I see you, I see like a catapult, and it's like you catapult people into what they were made for. I know that's what you did for me." Another person said, "I see you like a slingshot." Interesting how the metaphors are the same. See, like a slingshot that you shoot people into stuff. Another person who just a couple of months ago, she was a young 20-something. She says, "Every time I look at you, you know what? The picture I get is like it's like you're building a wall, but all of these stones are different sizes, and you help people find out exactly where they're supposed to be based on their fit." And I'm like, that's beautiful. Like some of my first training was all around those kinds of things. And what did I learn from these pictures that people would give me? It was really connecting me with the vision, with the purpose, and my why every time. It resonated because when people say this is how you know that you're getting on the why is when they say something and the hair stands up on your arms and you're like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize I had that kind of an impact. Wow, I didn't realize that was that important to that person." And when you know what you'll end up finding is that when they talk about who you are as a friend, who you are as a mom, who you are as a worker and everything else, you know what you'll end up tracing it to? You can probably get your values assessment and you can probably find the word that was most important, that you know what, you are fully starting to live into that value because people are noticing it in you. When you get what those 4 or 5 core values, which can be defined in a lot of different ways, now we can start applying it to the vision. And you know what we start doing? We start setting goals and we start setting activities based on due north in our life, because it's really given detail to what that picture looks like. The picture of what it looks like and how living into it really makes sense. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, sorry to switch it really quick. That's going to be part of your why. That's going to be part of you actually fulfilling your vision, is to get out of procrastination and to actually take action, because this is where we want to go. Take action. Some of you have not taken action yet. Here's the best offer, and why I'm showing you the Jumpstart program is it's by far the best offer that we have. You could get trained and certified as a coach and get your certificate, and then you don't even know what your steps are to start a business, to get clients, or any of those other things. That's why I'm trying to throw everything at you in this one thing, because you know that most programs that you guys are looking at cost thousands of dollars, and all they give you is a certificate and a big hearty wave from the door. Bye, good luck, go crush it. But here's what I'm going to tell you: the certificate is just a vehicle. What we want to give you is that we want to give you the vehicle, we want to fuel it up, and we want to give you navigation, and we want to give you a caravan to go on the road with you as you start. It's about the best metaphor that I can give you in this. And this is what this includes. The Jumpstart program includes life coach training, it includes life coach certification, and an A to Z business development roadmap that shows you how to build your coaching practice from idea to launch. And here's some of the things that it includes. One of the things that it includes is our next boot camp, which is March 22nd through the 24th. Now, we usually this program alone, boot camp, is worth $3,500. We usually charge $247 for it. You will get this included when you enroll in our Jumpstart program. Bootcamp allows you to knock out all of your certification training in a single weekend. So our next one is going to be March 22nd through the 24th. What are we going to be doing? Well, we're going to be walking you through 7 powerful weekend sessions. They are the same sessions that are available in our self-paced program. Foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients achieve extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, how to establish a growing coaching practice with live coaching demos and live Q&As. And what is included? Well, in that live Q&As, role-playing, coaching tools, we give you a coaching tool starter pack. We also give you templates in a welcome pack for any of your new clients. It's all brandable, so you can go in and edit it inside of Canva. Obviously, you earn your life coach certification. You get your certificate. You get HD replays, handouts, and see that pricing is normally $247, but you can get all of that inside of the Jumpstart program. Jumpstart also includes 6 other courses: the life coach certification course, which allows you to come in on Tuesday nights and have optional live Tuesday training; our self-paced program that you can go through the modules on your own schedule. You also get the coaching product launch blueprint, where we show you how to create coaching products, and we show you how to design anything from any kind of a coaching program, online course, retreat, webinar, whatever, any kind of a coaching product or anything under the coaching umbrella. We show you how to do those things from all the way, and we walk you through idea to launch. We also have brand camp. We show you and give you 13 hours of training in branding. So we show you how to write emails, how to write sales pages, how to write copy that helps that people go on your website, and how do you create a high converting website? How do you write emails that people will actually see the subject line and they will open them up? How do you optimize your website for search engines? We show you all of those things. Honestly, the Jumpstart program is worth thousands of dollars per month. You can get it for $97 a month. We're trying to make it as easy of a decision as possible for you. And this is Starbucks. It's $3.25 a day with a 3-month minimum commitment. I know you guys have been looking at other programs that cost thousands of dollars, and this is your ticket. This way, you're not starting out in debt. You get the same value, and you get support, because we're going to walk alongside you. Because what I didn't mention is that Wednesdays we have a group coaching call. So all the coaches who are part of our Jumpstart program are invited to a Wednesday call that is live. So if you're keeping up, Jumpstart includes Tuesday, live Tuesday training that is optional. Wednesday, live group call for the coaches who are part of Jumpstart. So you can get feedback on anything that you're working on. You can get support. You don't have to do this thing alone. That's what the caravan is for, to help you get to your destination. Boot camp, which is our 3-day certification weekend. Brand camp, as well as the coaching product launch blueprint. All of these things that are included, only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Let's see. I'm going to look at a couple of these things. Mia says you won't regret it. Get certified. Thank you, Mia. Appreciate that. Gerlinda from the East Coast. Good to see you. Virginia's in the house. Amber from Alaska is in the house. Good to see all of you. Want to make sure that I'm saying hello to you. If you guys would do it, hit that like button and share that. That would be great. I see one of the comments from Dan. From a spiritual perspective, finding your why is a process of discernment, discovering why God has given me certain gifts and abilities, and knowing that when I use them, I'm my best self. I love that. Appreciate that contribution. Well, cool. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. That link to get enrolled is inside of the description of this video. We would love to take this journey with you. We'll be back next week with the next chapter of the next chapter of the vision-led coach. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.